That's the dispensation. Now, let's go back into identifying the lost tribes of Israel. We've identified Reuben, which is the Seminole Indians and the Aborigines of Australia. We've identified Simeon, which are the Dominicans, Levi, which are the Haitians. We've identified Judah, which is the so-called Negroes here. We've identified Benjamin, which is the so-called Jamaicans, West Indian, and the people in Trinidad. Now we're going into Zebulun, the father Jacob, Israel, letting his children know what will befall them in the last days. Let's go to Genesis 49 and 13.
Zebulun shall dwell at the haven of the sea, and he shall be for an haven of ships.
He shall be for an haven of ships. Who's that? Panama and Guatemalans. Panama, the Panama Canal, which is a haven of ships. So the Lord told Zebulun, in the last days, your habitation will be a haven for ships. That one land of Panama connects both oceans. It communicates and actually trade on both sides of the world. That's the haven of ships, Panama. So if you're a Panamanian and Guatemalan, you are from the tribe of Zebulun, because ships will be haven on your land in the latter days. Now, let's get the next one, Genesis 49 and 14.
Issachar is a strong ass couching down between two burdens.
Strong ass couching down between two burdens. When you see that, those bumper stickers south of the border, you see the two donkeys and the man couching down with a big hat on. That lets you know that their burdens would be the fact that they work. They work hard. They're known for working. And that work is the burden that the Lord put on them. Read.
And he saw that rest was good.
That rest is the fiesta that the Mexicans have every noon, which is called rest. Go ahead.
And the land that it was pleasant.
And the land that it was pleasant. A very fertile land the Mexicans hold today. And all the other people in the earth, the heathens, use that land for their own gain. There's no way Mexicans should have to cross the border to feed their family with how rich and fertile their land is. The other nations have taken advantage of Issachar and made them poor, fulfilling this prophecy to let you know that they'll be like an ass couched between two asses or burdens or donkeys. They'll have to work with the sweat of their brow to make anything, even though they have a fruitful land. Go to Deuteronomy 33 and 18 and 19. So who is Issachar? The Mexicans today. Read that.
And of Zebulun he said, Rejoice, Zebulun, in thy going out, and Issachar in thy tents.
In thy tents. That's how they used to travel. In tents. All the Indian tribes over here used to travel in teepees or tents, or what the scriptures call in the Old Testament booths. Booth, traveling in tents. Another defined prophecy to show you who the children of Israel are here today. Now let's go to Genesis 49 and 16.
Dan shall judge his people as one of the tribes of Israel.
Dan shall judge his people as one of the tribes of Israel. Now we know that Dan was the smallest of all the tribes of Israel. Dan was small. They had a little place next to Mount Seir. We found out through research, and we're going to make a whole tape on this to prove what we're showing here, that Dan ended up becoming the Harides and set up a Sanhedrin to judge God's people. So Dan made an agreement with Esau and Satan for the priesthood. And they became the Harides, and that's why they're not named in Revelation, the 12th chapter. Dan started dealing with evil, witchcraft, and they linked their seed with Esau. Get Judges 18 and 1. more proof on Dan. It says, Dan shall judge as one of the tribes of Israel. And we know Dan was not given an inheritance as a priest. They were the smallest tribe. Okay? But they started making an agreement because they were smaller with Esau, and they made an agreement with Satan dealing with all these different gods, and became judges to try to destroy Christ and Christ's people. We're going to prove that. Read Judges 18:1.
In those days there was no king in Israel, and in those days the tribe of the Danites sought them an inheritance to dwell in.
So when the northern kingdom was destroyed, Dan seen an opportunity to come to the forefront. Read.
For unto that day all their inheritance had not fallen unto them among the tribes of Israel.
So Dan was not supposed to have a priestly inheritance. Go ahead.
And the children of Dan sent of their family 5 men from their coasts, men of valor from Zerah and from Ishtar, to spy out the land and to search it. And they said unto them, Go search the land. Who, when they came to Mount Ephraim, to the house of Micah, they lodged there.
So they spied out the land to set up their own powers. Go down to the 27th verse, talking about the tribe of Dan. What happened to Dan? Read.
And they took the things which Micah had made, and the priests which he had, and came unto Lash, unto a people that were a quiet and secure, and they smote them with the edge of the sword, and burnt the city with fire.
Go ahead.
And there was no deliverer, because it was from Zidon, and they had no business with any man. And it was in the valley that lieth by Beth-rehob, and they built a city and dwelt therein. And they called the name of the city Dan, after the name of Dan their father, who was born unto Israel. Howbeit the name of the city was Laash at the first. And the children of Dan set up the graven image.
They set up what?
The graven image.
They started setting up graven images to Satan. Read.
And Jonathan, the son of Gershom, the son of Manasseh, he and his sons were priests to the tribe of Dan.
You see that? And they became priests. They started setting up their own priesthood. Read.
Unto the day of the captivity of the land. And they set them up, Micah's graven image, which he had made, all the time the house of God was in Shiloh.
You see that? So Dan made themselves priests. So when Christ came on the scene, the Sanhedrin was already set, and the Harides were already set. Who were the Harides? Dan. Dan linked with Esau and became a priestly people over the tribes of Israel. That's why it says in Genesis 49, go back to Genesis 49 again. Genesis 49, 16 and 17.
Dan shall judge his people as one of the tribes of Israel.
As one of the tribes of Israel. So he set himself up as a judge. So the Lord cut him off as a people. He set himself up as a priest dealing with Satan. Read.
Dan shall be a serpent by the way, an adder in the path.
He was a serpent by the way, because Satan got up in him as a Haride to try to kill Christ, when Christ's star was seen in the east. Go ahead.
That biteth the horse heels, so that his rider shall fall backward.
And they did that. Dan was set up to try to make Israel go back. So Dan made an agreement with Esau and Satan to go against his own people, to judge God's people with money. And we're going to go into that teaching, a whole teaching on Dan itself. And that's why Dan is not numbered with the 12 tribes in Revelation, the 7th chapter. Because they mixed their seed with Esau, and they started going after the gods of the other nations and set themselves up as priests. Now, let's go to Genesis 49 and 19, going into the tribe of Gad. Go ahead. Genesis 49 and 19.
Gad, a troop shall overcome him, but he shall overcome at the last.
A troop shall overcome Gad, but he shall overcome at the last. What troop overtook Gad? The U.S. cavalry under Custer. when Esau came over here, the troop that overtook Gad, the North American Indians, you can see the slaughters here. The troop that overtook Gad was a U.S. cavalry. Gad is a North American Indian. Here's a picture showing them moving and migrating because of the conquest of the Western world. They had to move because the settlers came over here from Europe and was putting smallpox in the blankets, killing the buffalo, spreading diseases amongst the people, and killing the people with biological warfare. Over here, you show the same troop with mass graves, pushing the North American Indians in mass graves and burying them, and taking a picture to commemorate this destruction. You see, we know a lot of you don't want to see this, but this is how America have come to be the great country it is today. It was built on what you see. Bloodshed. And then, to show you the pride of those that took the Indians down, they had photographers take pictures of the mass graves pushing the Gadites, or the North American Indians, in the graves. Okay? Now, we're not bringing this out to say that you need to seek any type of vengeance, because vengeance belongs to the Most High. But in order for us to show you the truth, we have to bring out the facts. It doesn't matter how raw they are, we have to bring out the facts. Because if they were bold enough to put it in a book, we're bold enough to show it. Okay? Read that again in Genesis 49 and 19.
Gad, a troop shall overcome him, but he shall overcome at the last.
Gad, you don't have to worry about it, because you will overcome at the last. You will overcome. Been pushed into reservations. Been destroyed. The only thing you got to show for all this great land is a few casinos. The Lord says you will overcome. See, your father, Jacob, told you that even though you went through these things, Gad, or the North American Indian, you will overcome. Okay? So according to the Bible, you didn't come over here through the barren straits. You're spiritual people dealing with the Great Spirit because you come from the seeds of Israel. More. Let's get Deuteronomy 33 and 20 and 21. On Gad. Read that.
And of Gad he said, Blessed be he that enlargeth Gad. He dwelleth as a lion, and teareth the arm with the crown of the head.
Read that again.
And of Gad he said, Blessed be he that enlargeth Gad.
Go ahead.
He dwelleth as a lion, and teareth the arm with the crown of the head.
He dwelleth as a lion, to let you know that he would dwell in the wilderness, and teareth the crown with the read that part again. With the what?
And teareth the arm with the crown of the head.
With the crown of the head, to let you know that they would use the feathers to tear their hand to make blood packs or peace packs. So they would take the feather out of their crown and tear their hand in shape and make peace packs, representing how the North American Indians made agreements. Showing you the Gadites had all this land, the buffalo. This land was beautiful. And these winters were bitter winters. When the Europeans came over, they taught the Europeans how to live on the land. Showed them how to dry out food and make things like beef jerky to live through the winter. Showed them how to hunt in the land. Okay? Go to Psalms 55 and 20 real quick. Psalms 55 and 20. Breaking down Gad.